today's tennis Olympian, the only Hindu American tennis Olympian, Rajeev.
Wow. Guys, thank you all for coming, being our guests. It's a great event, great honor to have an Olympic champion here amongst us, and he's generously granted his time to come talk to us about how the Gita and Hinduism has actually helped him in his life and his sports career, and what he's learned and what he can share with us. So, as most of you already know, since you obviously attended and you've seen the flyers, Rajeev won the silver medal in mixed doubles along with Serena Williams, his partner. Venus Williams. Venus Williams in the Rio Olympics this last summer. So, it was actually, there's a lot of, obviously, in that story, there's a lot of ups and downs. I'm not sure, we'll get into that a little bit, because he actually had to go against the actual Indian team from India. So we had some obviously some plot twists there about, and then from a personal note, Rajeev's had actually an amazing career. He basically has postponed his education actually to actually become a professional tennis player. But in the meantime, he's actually doing online classes. He actually believes in education like many Hindus do. So, so he actually has like two careers now: professional tennis player and a college student, and he's doing it online on his own. He takes tremendous fortitude, tremendous value of education. So, he grew up in Indiana. Right now, he lives in Walnut Creek, California. But we'll actually save the best for the talk. So let's sit this here.
You sit down?
Yeah.
All right.
So what we're going to do is we'll let you talk a little bit.
Yeah.
And then we'll go into Q&A. He actually has an early morning match tomorrow.
Yeah. I'm going to stand up. I don't even see everybody. That's all right. First of all, thank you guys for coming. I know it was really short notice, so appreciate everybody that organized the event. That was one of the better introductions that I've had. So, louder? Even louder? How about I just come closer? Sorry? So am I. Yeah. No, but a little bit more about myself. I played on tour for about 12 years now. I went to the University of Illinois for 1 year before I turned pro. As far as results, obviously Rio was a big result for me. I've won 2 titles on the singles tour, 11 titles on the doubles tour, semifinals of Wimbledon, U.S. Open, finals of the mixed doubles at the U.S. Open, and just won one of my bigger titles last week at Indian Wells, which is a Masters event, which is one of our biggest 9 tournaments on tour in doubles, actually.
Wow.
Thanks. Currently 11 in the world in doubles and number 2 in the world with my partner as a team. So anyway, it was interesting. I'd never really heard that before, that I put my education on hold to become a tennis player, but that's pretty much what happened. I mean, I started tennis really young, and like I was telling Jigger in the car, my dad had pretty good foresight about as far as what sports kind of can mean in the U.S. My parents are from India. They moved to the United States in '81. I was born in '84, and a lot of people that came around that time, are very education oriented, which my parents were as well. But my dad, a lot of credit to him, saw that actually playing sports could help my education. And he said to my mom, who was a lot more traditional, so to speak, that if he's able to follow this passion for playing tennis, it could actually open up doors for him later on in the future. And that was kind of the idea. I was pretty good at this sport, and he saw that people got college scholarships to go to schools that maybe they wouldn't go to in the future, or maybe my parents couldn't afford at that point. And 18 years later, when I was ready to go to school, I had offers to go to Stanford and Harvard and Duke and all these other schools that I would have had no chance to get into if I was just a normal student without playing tennis. So I think one of the things that I like to talk about is, from my parents' side, is the idea that just because you play a sport at a high level and a committed level doesn't mean that you're forgetting about education. Actually, my parents had me play tennis, or let me play tennis, with education in mind. And I think just because it turned into a career doesn't mean that education wasn't important. I mean, to this day, if my mom was standing right here, she'd be like, "Yeah, no matter what you do, I'm going to be the most proud of you for finishing your degree. You know, I could win tournaments and Olympics. It doesn't matter.
They don't mean anything.
It does not matter. Yes, my parents are as Indian as they come when it comes to that stuff. And you know, if it wasn't for my mother, I probably wouldn't be pursuing this degree and whatnot. And so I think it's a really important thing to understand. If a kid or whoever has a passion for something, a lot of times if you subside that passion, they're going to miss out on a lot of other opportunities. And that's probably the thing that I'm most grateful for my parents, is they sort of fueled my passion. They let me do what I wanted to do, and because of it, I ended up with a career in it. But if it wasn't just a career, I would have actually ended up with a lot more opportunities than I would have had had I not been a tennis player. And I have a lot of friends too. You know, there's a kid who's a friend of mine who's on the Stanford tennis team right now. He would not have gone to Stanford had he not been for his tennis. He plays very well. He's potentially going to make it, try and make it as a professional. But even if he doesn't, he's going to have, come out of it with a 4-year degree from one of the best universities in the country. So, a little bit of it, I think, from that end is my personal story. And then a little bit about how our culture, I feel like in sports especially, we as Indians sometimes feel like, we're athletically not as good as a lot of people. And to be honest with you, that's probably true. But I feel like what we have as far as mental capabilities are pretty strong, and maybe we take that, we don't realize how valuable that is. I grew up in a Hindu household just like everyone here. It wasn't, we weren't any extraordinary Hindus. We were normal Hindus like everybody else. But, our culture, our religion, I feel like teaches us a lot about calmness of mind and peace and understanding, how important that is. And I feel like I've found that to be a huge asset for myself in the field of competition. When other people who are maybe bigger and stronger and faster than I am are sort of losing their way because they can't keep it together, I'm a lot of times able to deal with adversity a little bit better than people are. And I didn't learn that in any specific way. That was just how I was born, and I was made up that way. And my parents are calm people, and we never yelled at each other at home. We never fought. It was just a very typical South Asian household, I think. And I think that's something that we can maybe realize a little bit more about ourselves and really try and use to our advantage when it comes to competitive situations. So that's my 2 cents. I thought would be a great way, since we have a small group here, is some question and answers, anything about me and my sort of life and story or anything like that would be.
Sure. I'll start off with the first question.
Yeah.
Can you tell us about your foundation, Entourage, and how you actually help motivate kids?
Yeah. So 6 years ago, my coach from Indiana, my coach that I grew up with, he's been my coach since I was 15 years old. So we're at about 18 years of working together now. He said, after you're done playing tennis, you're going to want to have something to leave behind, something more than that. So we started a foundation. It's called, my name is Rajeev. A lot of people call me Raj. They can't say the name properly. So it's called Entourage, with the last 3 letters being RAJ for kids. And basically the goal of the foundation is, I got so much out of playing tennis. And we do a charity event every year, and we raise money to help kids who have had tennis impact them in some positive way, that want to go to college, that want to do anything really, and they basically write in essays. We have a board of directors that reviews them. We give them to the most deserving candidates who we feel like have, good stories to tell and really have had the sport of tennis have a positive impact, just because for me it did have so much positivity. So that's what we do, and we're trying to expand and grow, but for the time being, it's a one-time event that we raise money. We use to raise money, I should say.
In what particular advice do you have for people to stay motivated? Obviously being a professional athlete, there's a lot of times you've had your down moments.
Yeah.
Especially particularly, how does the Gita actually help?
Yeah, I think a lot of. Again, I go back to my father. He was a big influence on me, but he was always about the process of doing things the right way. If you think about a lot of the message that a lot of our scriptures talk about, it's about not the result of what actually happens. You can't be afraid of the result. You have to be excited to do the work, do the process. And if it happens to work out in your favor, that's great. If it happens to not work out in your favor, at least you feel like you did everything you can to sort of get to that point. And so that's kind of both winning and losing. We win a lot, we lose a lot. And if you let either one of those, I think, get in the way of understanding how it is that you actually got there, it becomes really tough because you're on an emotional roller coaster. You have to kind of stay as even as possible. I mean, tomorrow I have a match, and if I win, I could be up here. If I lose, I could be down here. But then I got to get up, go to work the next day, and try and improve on what I did and what I didn't do well, what I did do well, learn from it. And if I'm so wrapped up in the result of what happened, it's very hard to actually progress and improve. And I think that's something that a lot of people get caught up in is how many times did you win, how many times did you lose. It's not necessarily about that steady progress forward, and it's something that I think is a big message in a lot of our scripture.
Okay, one last question, then we'll open it up. So can you go into what the Olympics were like for you, your personal experience with Venus, and also playing the Indian team?
Yeah. The Olympics is something as a tennis player you don't really think about. I mean, Olympics in tennis has actually only been around since I think 1988. So when growing up, we watched Wimbledon on TV, watch US Open on TV, watch the Davis Cup, which is a big team event. But I never really thought, it was never really a goal of mine necessarily to play the Olympics. And so as it had, I was ranked high enough to qualify and ended up getting in. And first of all, tennis is an individual sport. So to be on a team we had 11 people on the team altogether. To be on a team was something special. You're watching your countrymen and women play, and playing for medals, and playing for such a big arena. Opening ceremonies was by far the coolest thing I did. You get to walk out with Michael Phelps and the entire basketball team. We were sitting in this room, and obviously everyone country is together. So a couple seats down was the entire U.S. men's basketball team, the women's basketball team, the gymnasts, the swimmers, everybody. And then obviously we got to the competition, and playing mixed doubles with Venus is obviously a legend of tennis and someone I grew up watching and similar age. And it was just sort of once we got into the competition, it was more like any other competition. And when we played, we prepared for our matches. But when it was over, we stood on the podium, and unfortunately we didn't quite win. We lost to another American team. To just be standing there while the national anthem is playing, their flags being raised, and people are putting on. I mean, it's like the Olympics has been around forever, and to be a small part of that was like nothing I've ever felt before. You play for your country, and you're wearing this medal, and you're on a stage that people truly dream about being on. And I was really humbled that I was actually able to represent my country in such a stage. And getting back to your thing about so in the semifinals we were playing against the team from India. I don't know if anyone follows tennis here very closely, but it was Rohan Bopanna, who's a very good friend of mine, invited him to my wedding, and we're very close. He's on my phone bill, for crying out loud. Seriously, like he has an Indian phone. When he comes to the U.S., he's on my phone bill. And Sania Mirza, who's another female tennis player who's quite popular, and I think I've known Rohan since I was maybe 17, 18, and I've known Sania for sure since we were like 11, 12 years old. I mean, these are childhood friends of mine, So now you're playing some, two competitors for possibly the biggest match that any of us will ever play, because the winner of that was assured a medal. And so we're playing. It was a very close match. We ended up winning, and it was a little bit. I'm not going to say it was bittersweet. I was very happy to win, but I really kind of felt for them too, because being of Indian origin, first of all, I would root for them whenever they play against anyone but me. And and second of all, I know how much it meant to them, and I was asked a bunch of questions about that. I got a lot of hate about that too. I got called seriously, I got called a traitor and all kinds of things, and yeah. But I was asked a lot of questions about how that felt. And it was tough. It's always tough to play friends, but at the end of the day, we all know that it's nothing personal when we compete, and so it was certainly a match that I will remember.
Great. So, any questions?
We are here under Hindu American Foundation.
Yeah.
Just share your thoughts about your association with HAF, and also tell us why we need an organization, an advocacy organization like HAF. How can the people He wants to speak.
Speak up. Speak up.
Your question can be heard. You're good. I had to yell? No, you're all right. You okay?
Yeah.
So, I was contacted by the Hindu American Foundation. Actually, I think Sita Iyer, who's pretty involved in the whole process, read an interview that I did where I said actually something about my culture and my upbringing affecting the way that I go about my business. And so she contacted me. So I participated in a gala that they had in the Bay Area, and we've been in contact ever since. And I think one of the things that I had growing up is, my parents immigrated to the United States, so I'm effectively a first-generation American. But it's tough to figure out where exactly you fit in. At home, you live this mostly Indian life because that's how your parents are, and that's totally fine. At school, you live this mostly American life because, that's who you're integrated with over there. And me being an athlete, there wasn't very many Indians that did sports at a high level like I did. So like I had that life. So I kind of had 3 different circles that I moved around in when I was growing up, and to really understand and find where you fit in is challenging for somebody who's in my position or in a lot of people's position. So I think that's where it's important to really figure out what it is that you as an individual like to do. For me, it happened to be the sport of tennis. That's not what it is for everybody else, but I really found a niche there, and I really found a way that I could express myself and be myself, and I was the happiest playing tennis than I was doing anything else. And that didn't mean I didn't like to go to school, or that was my thing. And I really credit my parents for allowing me to express myself through my passion, because it really gave me more than anything a sense of identity and a sense of belonging. I belonged in this field, and I'm 33 years old today, and I still belong in this field. I still have somewhere to go where I feel like I belong there. And I think sometimes that gets lost when you're a kid of parents who are immigrants and whatever, and the kid finds themselves in very different, a very sort of state of limbo, because they're not really fully belonging to one sort of culture, and that really helped me, because I knew I belonged in this one culture, and that was a really helpful thing just for me as a person, I think, in general.
Yeah. Please.
When did you start playing, and when did you go pro?
Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, when did I start playing and when did I turn pro? I was 4 years old when I started playing. I don't actually have many memories of life without tennis. And then I turned pro when I was 19. So I did 1 year of college, and then I turned pro after that. So that was another big decision for my parents, for my family. I missed a lot of school when I was in high school because we traveled around playing. But then the idea of someone actually not finish a degree was a big deal. But again, with a little bit of convincing, my dad was able to convince my mom that, he's going to have opportunities to finish school later on. Like you said, I guess I took a hiatus from school is how we always looked at it. And, professional sports, you only have a certain window of age to be able to do it. And so that was, I guess, enough for my mom to be okay with it. So
You played every 4 years with Olympics also?
So this was my first Olympic Games. I didn't. This is the first time I competed. So hopefully, the next one's in 2020 in Tokyo. Hopefully, I'll be able to compete there as well.
I was thinking that Olympics and the pro does not jive together.
So it's run by 2 separate organizations. But in the years that we have Olympic years, our tour makes accommodations, because obviously it's a big deal for it's a big deal for many people. Yeah.
Once you pro, you can.
Yeah. No. So it does. You can, in tennis as a professional, you can play the Olympics. Yeah.
You were talking about your game before in the semifinals.
Yeah.
I see a lot of analogy, because you said that Tanya Mirza and the Rohan
yeah.
were as good as your brothers and sisters.
Yeah, they really are.
So if you were to equate in the Gita, where Arjuna is fighting his own cousins.
Completely.
So,
No, it's funny you say that. I had a duty to do. I had to represent my country, and my country happened to be not the country that they were representing. And we had to go out there and do battle, for lack of a better word, for what we were there to do. And I couldn't go away from that just because I wanted them to win too, and they couldn't either. And we ended up having a great match. And the next day, they were playing the bronze medal match, and I saw both of them. I wished them the best of luck. I really did truly hope they would win. They ended up not winning, and the next week we were in Cincinnati. We had dinner together. Again, it was like normal, So you were absolutely right about that.
So can you enumerate any one particular moment which was very cherished or memorable where we could all share or learn from?
I think we were actually getting beaten pretty badly. Like, they played really well in the first set. They were beating us pretty convincingly. And I think it was a tough moment to really make sure that you were trying to stay with, stay believing in yourself and believing in what you were doing out there, and just realizing, if they keep playing that well, they're probably just too good on the day. But it was sort of like one of those fork in the road moments where, on one hand, you could be like, well, it's just not going to happen for me today, or on the other hand, well, you know what, I'm going to keep trying and see maybe they let off their level a little bit, maybe something happens, and if you always continue to compete and continue to just try your best, you just never know what'll happen. When we sat down at the end of the first set, we're like, you know what, they're playing really well, but let's just keep at it. You never know. Let's see what happens. And sure enough, they dropped their level a bit. We were able to come back, and we won. We won in the end. So it was a situation where we had 2 choices, and we fortunately picked the right one.
Talk about growing up in Indiana.
Yeah.
In cold weather.
Yeah.
And you have any siblings?
I don't have any siblings. I'm an only child. Before Indiana, we lived in Wisconsin, which is even colder than Indiana. So, I mean, yeah, it was just normal life for me. I mean, that's where my dad had a job that he got transferred a couple times, and we ended up there. And, you know, I never really thought anything of it. A lot of people said, oh, you can't be a good tennis player from anywhere that's not warm, and you have to be in Florida, a place like this. But I just valued being at home with my family, my friends. I had a pretty normal, high school, childhood life, and I didn't really feel like it was necessary that, I needed to go away from that to be good. Honestly, if I'd done that, I probably would have enjoyed the sport less, and that was not going to happen. So that was more work.
So I'll ask a question for our shy friend. So Avinash back there, like he has kids who he wants them to become professional tennis players. So
okay.
What advice do you have for him as a father to raise a son like you?
I mean, I would say, I was telling them a story earlier. There was one point I remember, I think I was 9 or 10 years old, where I told my parents, I had my best friend at the time played hockey, so I decided I was going to be a hockey player. I didn't want to play tennis anymore, which wasn't very smart because I'm not really built for hockey. But I just said, you know what, Mom and Dad, I don't really want to do this anymore. I had no interest. I didn't really want to go to the club and play. And for a while they were kind of like, well, that's weird, but they just let me be, And a week or 2 weeks went by of not playing, and I literally went and begged them, hey, listen, I'm sorry, that was not right. Can we go play tennis again? And they said, sure, let's go play. The point is, it was always my choice. If I wanted to play, they let me play. If I didn't want to play, that was okay too. I didn't have to play. So I think if you can, I don't know if your kids are going to be professionals or not, but if you can at least let them enjoy what they do, they'll reach their potential. They'll reach the highest level they can possibly reach, and they'll have the best time doing it. There's no secret formula. I mean, if there was, I'm sure everybody around would want to be that. You just have to let it happen as it's going to happen.
How old were you when you hit your 10,000 hour?
That's a good question. Yeah, I read that. Yeah, he asked me how old was I when I hit my 10,000 hour point. There's a book by, I can't remember the guy's name, but it's called Outliers that I read. And it's, yeah, that's it. Yeah, and he talks about how you have to reach 10,000 hours of doing something to be to be a master of a craft. I actually have no idea when I would have reached 10,000. I'm guessing it would have been pretty early because I played a lot of tennis when I was, 4 years old till, whenever. I did play a lot, so I don't exactly know, but I did play quite a bit when I was a kid. But again, it was because I wanted to do it, so it was always fun for me to do that. Yeah.
Speaking of books, would you ever consider writing one? Something in relation to the Gita and sports?
Yeah, I don't know. I never thought about it before. It's a good question. I think it's very valuable to have information because there's not many people from our background that are, athletes. And I think it's, like I said, I think we get told a lot that we can't do something because we're physically not capable. But I think people underestimate the, this sort of power of mental strength, and I think it would be something that'd be interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
One question. It's nice when you come talk to us guys. If you ever want to speak to young kids, Indian American kids, you can be a great mentor for them. To say, how many Indian kids are influenced?
Yeah.
Their IT doctors.
Yeah.
If you ever have done that, going to speak to the young kids, stand in front of them, show them what you achieved.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I haven't. Okay, so the question was, do I ever speak in front of the young kids that are Indian American that maybe have aspirations to be athletes, or maybe they don't, but just in general. And I say that I actually haven't done a whole lot of this. It's something that's another reason that I was speaking to Sita about is I feel like as you get older, you realize, oh, maybe I could actually help the next generation, inspire the next generation, maybe just educate, whatever it is. And I think it's something that I would really like to do because I think. Like I said, there's not many people that are in the athletic field, that are from our background, and I think it could be something that, even if it's not sports, if it's something else, if it's a passion of art or dance or music or whatever, it's all the same thing, and I think it's important that people hear that it's possible to be successful, maybe without doing your absolutely traditional routes, or your traditional pathways.
If you have a time, I think, say, training in range, kids.
Yeah, it's something I'm certainly interested because I know that I would have really liked something like that at that young age. You remember those things. I remember meeting some of my tennis heroes the first time, you know, and I think it's really, you know, it's really powerful.
There's one documentary called One in a Million.
Yeah.
I'm sure if you saw it. You heard about it?
I've heard about it.
It's about,
Is it the baseball one?
No. It's basketball.
Basketball, that's it, yeah.
I'm seeing. Came from India. He's in the NBA.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it's a good story for all of us to look at and to follow. But it'd be nice if you could look at that maybe sometime.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah, anytime, you know,
Amazing documentary.
yeah, I probably should watch that a little bit more closely. I know there's one. Yeah, there was one about that. There was another movie I believe that I remember seeing where some baseball scouts went to India to find.
$1 million.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, I think these stories are. I mean, we have 1 billion people over there. There's got to be some good athletes. That's serious, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Diet-wise, are you a vegetarian?
Diet-wise, no, I'm not a vegetarian. I grew up. My parents were. Well, my mom was a vegetarian in India. My dad wasn't, but we. I don't know exactly why I'm not a vegetarian, but we had it in our house growing up, and I think it was one of those things where my parents felt like, you know what, we live in America now, and regardless of what they were going to do, they were going to let me, you know, integrate with the culture, and if I didn't want to eat it, it was okay, but you know, they were going to be okay with me, you know, feeling like that. So I don't know. I've never been a vegetarian, but I try to eat as healthy as I can, but that is not being vegetarian for me. So.
You know, it's very interesting. You mentioned that Shekhar can arrange for you to do some inspirational talks. From hearing your story, it looks like we should hear your parents.
Completely.
Who allowed you to pursue your passion.
Yeah. And then, you know, if they were here, they would sort of be like, oh no, it was because, you know, but the fact of the matter is when you're that age, they have a lot of say-so in what happens, you know?
I can relate to that. I came to this country in 1982.
Yeah.
I have 2 young daughters. There was a compulsion to live my dream through them.
Yeah.
And somewhere along the line, I had to detach and say, no, it's not me, it's them.
Yeah.
But your parents have done much ahead of time at a very early stage for you to pursue your passion.
Yeah, I completely agree, and they deserve a ton of credit for me being able to, you know, for sure, for me to be here, you know, at this point, still playing tennis at this age, and you know, playing with a decently successful, whatever it is, it was because they were, you know, allowed me to do that. So it's funny because they have a lot of friends that they love watching me play. They love when I do well, but they say that they would never have let their kids do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm
saying. One of my parents' best friend, his son was actually on the high school tennis team with me. He wasn't quite so good and probably would have never made a career out of it or anything. But like he says, you know, he's like, my son was a tennis player too, but I think he's a neurologist right now. You know, and he just said there's no way. He's my biggest fan. I'm telling you, he watches all the matches I play and all that, and he sends me messages. There's no way he would have let his own kids do it. You know, so my parents were different like that for sure.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
Have you ever faced adversity because of your background and how did you handle it?
Yeah, she asked if I've ever faced adversity because of my background. How did I handle it? I mean, I think whether I realized it or not, I guess I don't really remember so many times, or any times for that matter, that I've been like, well, it's because of my background that I'm not able to do something. I feel like that's one of the probably advantages of growing up in this country. Hopefully it'll continue to be like that, but you know, I've been able to be just like anybody else, you know, and I've felt fortunate to always feel that way. So again, I don't know if it's because I was sheltered from it or not, but I think I've been fortunate to not have to deal with, you know, a lot of things that people have had to deal with. My doubles partner, actually, it's funny, so my doubles partner is South African. His parents went through like the apartheid era and stuff. But he has a lot of unbelievable stories to talk about, you know, and that's one of the best things I've done in tennis is you get to meet people from all over the world and all walks of life and different backgrounds, and you hear things that you never thought you'd hear, you know. It's really cool.
So if there's no more questions, I'll ask the last one. So what does the future hold for you? Like what happens? What happens like for the next Olympics and after your tennis career?
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I've thought about it a lot. I mean, it being 33, you think, okay, this is probably the back end of my tennis career. I hope to keep playing as long as I can because I love it, and I think it's a wonderful way to make a living. Past that, I don't really know. I really do like the sport. I'd like to be coaching. I really enjoyed my time in college, playing college tennis. And I think that environment's really cool. You get to get kids that are from 18 to 22. You can really impact them. And I think possibly coaching in college would be a situation that I would like. But it's all just a bunch of thoughts right now. I don't know. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. So we'll see. But for the moment, I'm going to keep playing as long as I can.
One last question.
Yeah.
To get to this point in life, there's always a teacher who's involved.
Yeah.
And the teachers, now that you're trying to be a teacher, you're trying to look for a disciple accordingly.
Yeah.
So what is an ideal teacher and what is an ideal student?
I would say I was really lucky to have a coach. Like I said, we've had a relationship since I was 15. He's 10 years older than me, and I don't mean this in any racial way. He's a white guy from Indiana. He's got nothing in common with me as a person of Indian origin, but he just saw in me a trait where I like to have fun, I like to learn, I like to be engaged, and he really took to me and really sort of nourished those traits to make me improve my tennis game, and taught me a lot about life and just how I can use some skills in places outside the tennis court. So I'd say for me, the ideal teacher is somebody who understands you as a person and realizes what it is that makes you tick. Not just works for me. It wasn't forehands and backhands. It was talking about, every topic we had to talk about. And I think he did an unbelievable job of understanding what it was that I needed at what particular time. And I think when you're talking about somebody who wants, who you want to help, I think it's someone who you can relate to personally. You can be in their shoes. You can really understand what they're going through. Because so much of being good at anything or improving anything is not just that one subject. It's improving your life as a whole. And I think it's an important part that sometimes you get missed when you're teaching someone a subject. You focus only on that subject. A lot of times you don't know what's going on outside, off the court, and that plays a big part in how quickly they can grasp a topic or improve, or really it impedes their progress if things aren't good off the field. And I think he did a great job with me, and I hopefully can do that with somebody else.
Rajeev, in that effort to understand you, was ever faith discussed?
Faith was discussed to a certain extent. Faith for us growing up in my household was more not about, a spiritual power, a God, or whatever. I mean, my parents had no problem if I went to church, if I went to a mosque, they didn't have any problem. Faith for us was about, okay, you look at the Mahabharata, you look at Ramayana, whatever, you look at these things and you say, okay, what lessons can you learn from that? How can you implement that into your own life? It wasn't ever about, oh, my God's better than your God's better than your God. So it was talked about in a certain way of like, sort of example. And if I got that example by learning about Jesus or learning about anything else, that was going to be okay too. It was just more about, learning about maybe the examples that these people set, And for us, it happened to be the Hindu teachings because that's where my parents knew. But it didn't mean that they were not okay if somebody else, said something. So that's where I feel like I was able to cross borders with, people that didn't have the same faith that we did.
So you shared them very candidly and openly?
Absolutely, yeah. And one time, I remember this really, really distinctly. One time, I was doing something wrong. I can't remember what it was that I was doing wrong, and my coach said, "You're starting to think like an American and not like an Indian." It was something about, like, I was really getting caught up in winning and losing or something like that, and he actually said, "You're starting to think like an American. Like, stop and start thinking like like you normally think, like an Indian person. What can you do to get better? What can you do to, whatever." So him being a person that has no idea about Hindu faith, I thought that was pretty good, coming from. So, yeah.
So let's hear from a kid.
Okay.
Ask him his favorite candy or whatever you want.
Where do you live now? In Indiana?
My parents live in Indiana, and my wife and I, we live in California. But both of our families live in Indiana, so we go back there pretty regularly. Yeah. But I'm on the road out of 365 days. We're probably on the road 250 to 275 of them. So, I play 25, 30 tournaments a year. Each one's about a week long, so we don't really spend a whole lot of time anywhere. You got to think of something. We're not letting you go. Yeah, go ahead.
You've described that fun, underlying with the fun was the important criteria for your success.
Yeah.
But whenever we turn to from a amateur to a professional, somewhere the line kind of gets a little obliterated between winning and having fun.
For sure.
How well did you?
And winning's fun, isn't it?
Yeah. So how did you manage to keep the fun in focus without getting entwined into the success part of it?
Yeah, I think a big part of it is having a separate life outside of the tennis court. I still have my friends, I still have my family. Like, if I lose a tennis match, it's not the end of the world. It's gonna be frustrating for a day, an hour, a day, maybe a couple days. But like at the end of the day, like I can still go home. I can still, go to the movies. I can still call my friends, and like, it's not. They'll be there, with tennis or without tennis. And I think that's when you talk about as a professional or someone that plays at a very high level. It's really important who they have around them, and I think so much of it is just to keep it light, keep them normal, keep it where there is life outside of tennis that's not going to go away when the sport maybe doesn't go your way, or maybe when the sport ends. Or like tomorrow, if, God forbid I blow out my knee and that's the end of my tennis career. Well, it's okay. Like, it's been a great ride, and I'm going to have something else that I enjoy just as well outside of the court. So I think the perspective is really important in keeping that line from getting too fuzzy. Because it can get fuzzy really easily. You get really involved in the sport, and it becomes your livelihood, it becomes your source of income. It can get really fuzzy really fast, but you need to have that support system, I think, and that's really vital.
Think of anything?
I asked you what racket you played with. You didn't ask me.
Do you play tennis?
Well, does it matter?
It does matter, yeah. They tell me it matters.
Great. So he actually has to get back to Miami now for his tennis tournament. So it's like thank him for.
If anyone ever, does anyone come to the tournament in Key Biscayne? Does anyone know?
I do.
Yeah, please come out. If we play tomorrow. Tomorrow might be tough for everyone, but if we happen to make it till the end, it's on the weekend. Anyone, we'd love to have you out there. And we actually made the finals last year, so hopefully we can do as well this year. Yeah, go ahead. Last one.
I'm going to speak on his behalf.
Okay.
He wants your card.
My card? I don't have a card, but I'm happy to give an autograph.
He's shy right now, but he would like to communicate with you.
Okay, that's fine.
Take a paper and let him sign his name, and you can put it. And take a picture, and then you can.
I guess so. It's like thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys.
Good luck for tomorrow.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The dinner is ready. So, Rajeev?
Yeah, I'm gonna have.